Hello everybody and welcome to another tutorial in camera and lens repair. And this time I will take my old Nikkor-Q Auto 2.8 and it is a 135mm. It's a non-AI, so it's an old fellow, and I would like to show you if there was, it's not the case in here, but if there was some oil on the aperture plates or get them sticky in a way, so if we take a photo and the picture will get way too overexposed, it could be the aperture plates wouldn't act fast enough, and it will say the pin here will actually, the connection pin here will act when the camera takes a picture, but the aperture system in here will not be fast enough, so the picture will be overexposed. So how to do that? How to repair it and get the plates to work again? Well, we will simply take the aperture assembly apart, not the whole lens. So let's have some tools. At least we need some dentist tool, like some of those. This is a spade, which is really good with working with plates, or the other end. And a really pointy, some of those, which is really good to make scratch in aluminium or something. Two flathead screwdrivers. In this case it will be a 1.8mm and a 1.2mm flathead screwdriver. Those are from Vera, which I prefer in some cases, and just to mention, I am not paid by any company. I buy my own tool, my own stuff in here. So just to make sure, I have made a special tweezer for working with the aperture plates and other where there is not much room. So I simply take a bended tweezer and simply grind the two ends to be very flat, and it works really good. Well, sometimes I use a small lens sucker, which is also really good. This is from a company called Nordson. I don't think you can buy it anymore, but it's really good. There are another of those. And a simple tweezer is also good. Some cotton buds can also be very handy in this case, and of course some fluid, which will be isopropyl 99%. And we also need a blower. Oh gosh, this is a new one I just bought from the it's called the Orbit HEPA blower Jet 2, and it's from the photographic solution, Photosol, I think it's called, .com, and it's the name Orbit. There is a link in the description, and I think it's really good because there's a filter here, so when you press on it, it will blow out, and then there's a valve in here that closes, so there will not be suck any air in here, but it will suck in here via the filter. So, and when you press again, there will be no dust in the nozzle here. So that's quite good. Now let's jump into it. Clear off the table and just see how it can be done. First thing we need is set the focus ring to near end. It will say 1.5 meter, and then we have the front, the lens hood here, which we have to pull out and lock, and there's a screw in the black here on the barrel. So we just unscrew this screw, and It's quite long, but there's a locking screw that goes through the front tube here and into the front lens group. And then it's possible to just unscrew it. It could be different in your lens. I mean, it could be more sticky or something like that, but it's not the case in here. The noise in the background, which you probably can hear, is just my ventilation, so to suck out the evaporated isopropyl alcohol. So just, I mean, safety first, so it is. Now, we need to unscrew the front lens group just to make sure it will not be damaged. You will see the front lens here is fully exposed, so if you drop it on the hard surface, well, you could make some scratch. We need to unscrew it, and it can sit pretty tight. So what to do? Well, those gloves here are not really good, so I will, as I normally do, I mean very often, I use those working gloves with really sticky rubber, and it will make it a lot more easy to unscrew. So have a good grip on the aluminium here. It will not turn, and then you should be able to unscrew it. And out with that, and it looks the whole front lens group in one. Yeah, if one needs to do it, yeah, it should be possible to fully disassemble the lens assembly front. It's not the case here, and I will not do it because the lens elements looks pretty good, so it's not a problem. Now we will use the gloves sooner, but for now there is also a kind of a retaining ring here, which is quite big, and it sits with a tiny set screw, and we need the 1.2mm flathead screwdriver to unscrew it fully. It's better you fully unscrew it because it's tiny, and I'm not sure if you miss it, I mean if you lost it, you maybe will not be able to get another one. I don't know, but unscrew it gently until it comes out here, and with a magnetic screwdriver it should be much more easy to keep it, I mean take it out gently. Now put it aside, and that's it. This ring here we also need to unscrew, and again it can sit tight. It was not the case in here, but I will just show if it sits tight. We can just use those sticky gloves again and have a good grip here, and set the focus ring to near end, and simply unscrew it. It will say, it's not the, we do it again, it's not that part here with the thread, it's only the ring that here. So I will show you. So unscrew it, so this is the ring itself, and the front here with the thread is not that you want to unscrew. So put the ring aside, and then we will unscrew another part in here. Just to mention, there is a kind of a lock screw here which sits here, and it locks the lens assembly with the aperture in here to correct position. So right now we can actually pull out the whole lens assembly, but before doing so, it will make it easier. Set the aperture ring to 22. Now there is, I will just show it, the pin here, the connection pin for the aperture to the camera, which it will make it easier if you press it all the way over to there. Let it stay there, and I will just fully open the aperture with that, so it will be like that. So you can see when I push it here, I will open the aperture fully. Now, with the aperture ring on 22, I can simply just pull out the lens assembly. So it is, and then you can see the pin down there, which I move. It's the pin that goes to a little kind of a fork in here. This one here, that will move the aperture blades, and the ring, if it was fully closed like this, we can move. If I move the aperture ring here, you can see the fork in here. If I move that, it will move, and it will on the other hand move this. So if it will open it more towards if I move the aperture ring to 2.8, but let it stay on 22, and when you assemble it again, it should be over there, and this one should also be over here. Well, actually here. Now let's get into the aperture blades itself and the aperture connection mechanism. So we need to unscrew the back lens group here, and there is a kind of well, thread lock, nail polish, or whatever it is from the old days, and we'll simply add a few drops of nail polish remover. So it will, with the help of a cotton bud, and simply add in here. I think it's not that sticky. There, you see there's a little hole here, so you can simply just add a lot of nail polish remover here. Maybe there are more in your lens. It depends. I mean, it could be more or less of those. Now when it's done, hold on, we need to unscrew the back lens group here, not only the tube here, but the whole plate here, which is in one single piece here. And for that, and it in my lens it sits really tight, so I will use my gloves again with the extremely sticky rubber, and then have a good grip here on the front, not down here. No, it should be something like that, so the aperture controls are free. Then have a good grip here on the back and simply unscrew. Well, this one is quite easy to unscrew because I've been into the lens before, and just take a sneak peek. So now it's free. Here you can see the old thread lock, I mean not thread lock, but the nail polish, something like that, which used to lock the back lens group here. Now put it aside, and we will not use the gloves anymore. So now we look into the actual aperture assembly in here. So if I move the ring, I think it's the aperture control ring, you can see how it works in here. So if I well, you say kind of I will move this, but I will act it as it sits in the lens. So if I move here, this pin here, you can see it will open and it will close again. So this is how it works. Now we need to go into the aperture plates and the aperture control ring, and there is a ring here which sits with 3 screws, one there, there and there, and we have to take that ring out. Don't even think about try to unscrew this. Nope. The only thing you have to do is actually get this spring here, free it, and it sometimes can be more easy to, where did it go? I have a tweezer somewhere. Here. Yeah. So a dented tweezer like this one, it will be a lot easier to actually get it free, and it should be possible to push it down and then it's out. And this spring, just let it hang here. And now I will simply unscrew the 3 screws here, and it can only sit in one position, as you see here. This pin here, which move here, has to sit where the little, I don't know, it's a kind of a connection part sits. So it can only sit in that position. And over here, this little screw can only sit in one position. Make sure how it looks, so the part sits correct. So let's take out the ring here. Okay, so there. Looks like the screws are not magnetic, but they could sit a little tight, the holes. And sometimes it can be a little tricky to get them out, but we will make it. And the last one just fall out. So keep them safe. And now I can actually, with my dentist tool here, lift out this ring, just gently, and simply pull it out by wiggle it a little. Remember how this sits. So this pin here sits in between the 2 here. I don't know the name, but I mean, you can see how it looks. Now just lift it up, and then it's free. So you see the spring here has to sit correct when we put it in again. Now the next thing is the aperture control ring, I think it calls, has to be unscrewed. And remember how it sits, so you not put it in the opposite direction. It would not work. So we take out the little screw here, and so this is a special one, and then we lift out the where's my dentist tool here, so we can just lift this ring out by wiggle it a little. Don't press too much, you will it could not damage this ring, but it will make it more maybe scratch or something. Now And then we look much into the actual aperture plates by taking out the aperture. Yeah, I don't know what the name. It's probably that, called the aperture controlling. It controls the movement, I guess. So now take out this ring here and let the blade sit. So by moving it a little, should be possible to lift out. And at the same time I press here on the side. So it should be possible to take it out. So it is. And it should be put it in the exact same way. And remember how the blades actually is located, sitting. See, and it can actually only sit in one position. So there's no, there's no wrong way you can put them in. There's only one way. So they're quite thin. So when I take them out, I will just move one blade almost to the center, and then I can, with a tweezer, take it out. Maybe sometimes it's more easy to use a spade like my dentist tool here, and simply lift up the blades. Well, they sit quite stiff. So if I turn it over, I know how the blades will sit. So I can just turn it over, something like that. And with a pointy tool like this one here, simply press on the center of the pins in here. So all the blades are out. And then, if this one was really oily, which is not the case, I can simply just now put the blades in the small container here with the isopropyl alcohol. Something like that. Just and then jump them in. So take a bath. This one could also go in, and just let them stay a little. If there was oil in the system here, I could just use a cotton bud and simply move around in here and wipe away rest of it. There could be something, just a little, but it's not the case in my lens here. And we can just use a cloth to wipe away the the rest of it, so it looks nice and fine. And then the blades will just sit there for a little. So yeah, I will be back. And then the blades was just sitting here for some time. And I will just use a cloth to simply wipe the isopropyl alcohol away from the blades, and then it's clean. So I will just speed up the process and say nothing. And now we have the last blade, and everything will look fine. Yeah, maybe there was something on those blades, but now they are clean. And then the aperture ring here, and just wipe away so it's clean, nice and clean, and ready to put in again. So something like almost new, and we can just put the lid on here. So, and then next the plate has to be put back in again, and I could use my tweezer and put them in, or I could use my lens blower, but make sure how they sit, because if you try to put them in that way, it will not work. It can only sit in one position. So that's easy. I mean, easy in a way, but just to find the small holes in here, and it can sometimes be a little tricky. But with the help from a pointed tool on the little pin, it could be that it makes it a little easier. So this place sits correct. And again, I will just speed up the process. There's no idea it takes way too long. Just to make sure, I can also use my little lens blower here. It works, sometimes works in a good way, and simply catch the hole in here. So sometimes it's a good way, and sometimes it's more difficult. It depends. So there it is. Catch the little hole. So something like that. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to put them in, but they have to sit very precise. So there. And here. Yeah. And now the last plate I put in, I put it in a different way, so I will simply move the next last plate just a little, and the third last plate, simply move it so this hole is free, and then I should be able to actually put in the last plate, catch the hole here, and in that way it works. And now I will just use a dentist tool actually 2 dentist tools, which I think it will make it easier, and simply lift it up here and then move it over the last plate, so it will be something like that. And then it should be possible to actually make a full round hole where the blade sits as they should, and then add the aperture controlling, and remember where it sits. It sits here with the small notch, not the long one over here, but it has to sit here, and remember the holes around here, the small holes here, has to go over the pins, and you might have to adjust the pin a little in the aperture plates. So if we try to do so, it will maybe, it's possible to catch the, as you can see here. We have to make some adjustment to move the blades into correct position, something like that here, and make sure the ring here goes correctly over all the small pins. It would look something like that. So if I gently press down a little here and move the aperture ring here, I can actually move the plates and they will fully closed and open again. There might be some dust on it, we can just blow it away. So next is actually the this ring here. Remember how it sits, and I can just put it on. In this case there's no need for using any loop, in my opinion. So it sits there. So I can add the little pin here and then screw it in the moving ring. You can see here, have a finger on here so it will not move away, and gently screw the screw in, and we and gently, very gently, there's no need for over tighten this. So now we are almost back into correct precision, and now we put this ring in. It can only sit in one position. Make sure the little spring here sits on the correct way. It has to sit like this, so it doesn't have to sit all the way over here. So it can only, it can only sit in one position. So flip it over and then catch the screw holes here, as you can see here, and also the other screw holes, and make sure this where it is, this pin here sits between the two legs here. Then it sits correct. So we can just put it over and lower it to correct position. You maybe have to move the ring a little more so it's all the way over to here. This ring has to be all the way over to here. So now it sits in between. It will say the aperture control ring, I guess it's called. It can move freely, and the blades will move as they should. Now, put in some springs. I don't think they were magnetized. Oh yeah, it was. So it's good with a magnetized screwdriver, and then catch those the holes in here. I know it's difficult to see, but it should be clear, so you can just add the screw in here, and then going a little backward, then screw it in gently. Don't tighten it yet. So there. And then the other holes. Going a little backward, and then screw it in, and then the last screw here. So there, and then gently tighten them. So they will not fall out when they sit in the lens body, because there's a good fit, tight fit in the inner barrel. So now we are almost done. The only thing I need to do is to actually put in the spring and connect it to the inside of this pin here. So with a dented tweezer it should be more easy. Sometimes not. But let's see how it will go. Something like that. Maybe we could press a little on the side of it. Maybe with a dentist tool here. Then put it in. And then flip it up. So it's there. So now it's actually working as they should. So you can see if I move the ring here, it will also move the spring and the two legs, I mean the double pin here. So everything is actually correct assembled. So next is, yeah, it's just to put in the back lens group. If there's any dust, we could just dust off and then put it in. Catch the thread. Can sometimes be a little tricky. So, and then tighten it good. Well, you could use some nail polish here to make sure it will not unscrew itself, but it's not really necessary if you tighten it gently. And that's it. The next thing is I will simply put the lens assembly with the aperture thing into the lens body here. I mean the focusing body. And we can just put this pin all the way over here. It will say it's the same as you set the aperture ring to 22, all the way over here. The other pin has to stay fully open here. So now when I want to put it in, it will say this pin has to sit, this pin has to sit there, the other pin has to sit there. And when I put it in, I will just push the connection pin, or whatever it calls, all the way over here. This one stays there at 22, and then I had my guide pin, this guide pin here, it will go into the notch here. So I can lower it and have a good view down here to actually catch the fork down there. Should be able, and that's why one could set a small mark here in the middle of the fork. So it goes up here and set a mark here. It will make it easier to put it back in again. Maybe there has to be a little wiggle, don't know yet, but let's see how it will go. So there, yeah, don't release this yet. So it's just when the guide pin sits correct, you can press it down and then release the back pin here. So it should work, I guess. I was not correct, so we will just do it again. So this pin has to sit there, and I've pushed this all the way over here, so there. Then check again. There. No, not yet. Ah, gosh. So there, and we just try it again. It can be a little tricky. It's just because I would not take off the mount itself. So this one was just an, what you say, more easy way of doing it. So now here we are. Put a hand here so you can just see how it will work. And we can fully open and close the aperture. So, and well, it seems to work. So I can just put in the front lens group, if there is any dust in here. Something like that. Catch the thread, then put it in and gently screw it in. Then the lock ring here for the lens assembly, and the little set screw. Go a little backward to catch the thread, there, and then screw it in. And then tighten it good. Focus ring to near end, and I have my screwdriver with the tiny set screw. It's good to have a magnetized screwdriver, and then put in the lock screw here for the retaining ring. Don't be too hard on the thread. So there, and gently tighten it. There's no need to over tighten it. Oh, there I can see the screw is not in a good condition. So well, things happen. So now the only thing I need to do is to put the front lens hood barrel, catch the thread, screw it in, and there is a, as I mentioned in the beginning, this hole here, this hole in the front lens hood barrel, this long screw will also go through it, the hole here, and into the this hole here that actually locks the front lens screw from, it will prevent the front lens screw from unscrewing. So catch the thread and screw it in, and simply look through the hole, and you will hopefully, you can see the screw hole in there. Catch the hole and put in the screw, and gently put this locked screw into position and catch the thread, gently tighten it, and then we are back on track again. And then just put in the lens hood. It's quite smart, they actually put it in here, and then we are done, and it works as it should. So it's not that hard, but make sure you put attention to the small screws. And so that was all for me. Hope you can use the content and to repair your own lens. So that's all for me. Bye bye.